Okay, so I'm going to record this one for you guys. Let me get my camera set up here, which I can only do after I go live. Even though this is just a recorded live without you guys here, which is always a little strange for me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's adjust the brightness just a little bit so it's a little brighter. I'm going to go through all my Morphia books: Imagimorphia, Animorphia, Mythomorphia, Phantomorphia, Geomorphia, and I have an extra copy of Animorphia. So if I want to redo any of these pages, I could do it in that one. So yeah, let's go ahead and zoom in here. Zoom in one anyway, maybe two. That's good. All right, so that's what I'm going to start with. So what I want to do is go through the books that I have here. Let's turn on one more light. What I want to do is go through these books, and I'm going to let you guys tell me which ones you want me to continue on kind of right away. So I thought, because so many people have been asking me about the Kirby books, Kirby Roseanne's is the one that did Imagimorphia, Animorphia, Mythomorphia, Phantomorphia, and Geomorphia. And like I said, I have an extra copy of Animorphia. So what I want to do, I don't remember which one was first. I think Animorphia was first. So I'm going to go through each one. Hopefully we can get this done within I made myself a limit of 45 minutes on these color book catch-ups. And I'm going to go through them. And I probably will tag some that I'm really interested in completing maybe, or you guys tell me which ones you are more interested in seeing me complete. That way, yeah, I'll work on those pages particularly. So first I'll have Animorphia, and I do have some tags in them on some of the completed pages, but I do want to, let's move that line over here. I do want to show you some of the processes that I've done in these. Most all of my Animorphias have been done with just acrylic paint, washes of acrylic paint, watered down. When I say a wash of acrylic paint, I just mean watered down acrylic paint. So I've just done most of these with watered down acrylic paint over the years. A lot of them have been, they're not completed because I've done them as examples and test projects for you guys over the years. So some of them are just, random, partially done pages for that purpose. And then some of them are further along. So here's an example of, and now this paper in these first, I think they get a little thicker down in Phantomorphia. Yeah, Phantomorphia, Geomorphia. The pages are thicker. These were very thin at the beginning. And so they do buckle a little bit when you use washes of acrylic paint, which doesn't bother me because usually by the time you do the back side, it really levels it out so that they're not really very buckled at all by the time you get done with both sides. Okay, so this is an example of just taking a watered down acrylic paint and putting a wash over it. There's no pencil on here yet. It's just a wash of, I think, 2 shades of watered down acrylic paint. So you can get a lot done on your pages by doing a wash. Now, you don't have to use watered down acrylic paint. You could use watercolor, you can use markers, you can use, different things to get a wash on your page. But what I like about the acrylic paint washes is it gives it, let me get a sip of coffee here, guys. It gives it a little more tooth. And what that does is when you go to put color pencil, I'll just use white here because it'll show up. When you go to put color pencil on top of acrylic paint, it really stands out. You can put white on top of black, and I've shown this before. I'll show this one again. Where's my little sample here? Here is a little sample of what I'm talking about. This right here is black acrylic paint. This here is black pencil, just solid black. And I'm just using Prismacolor. Solid black Prismacolor pencil. This is black acrylic paint. You see how I can go on top of the acrylic paint with the white, with the pencil, and it'll bring it back to pure white. Here's the black. This is just black pencil. No matter how hard I push down, you're not going to get that. So the benefit of using an acrylic wash or an acrylic base, some are washes like this where you can see through it. Some are just solid backgrounds with just no water added to it. You can go over the top of your acrylic paint and you just can't get that effect. You just can't get that with just pencil. If I had done all this with brown pencil, there's no way that I could go on here and get this white. You see that? So again, some of these are just samples to show you guys some of the techniques. All right, so I'm going to try to get through all these books in about 45 minutes just to talk about the individual pages and you can tell me which ones you would like to see me complete. Okay. And some of the books have more done than others. All right, so let's flip through here. All right, here's another example of the same page that I did the same thing here as I did here. This is just the full page. Now you can see here how it buckled. The less water you have, well, I shouldn't say the less water in a wash, but you want to make sure that if you're going to do a lot of water on your page, especially in these that are thinner, very thin pages, you want to let it dry. If you're going to layer anything, you want to dry it in between the layers so it doesn't get too buckly, too watery. But again, that doesn't bother me. But if it does bother you and you're not sure how your pages are going to react to the water or the washes, take either the beginning page or a back page and do a test. Do a test to see what's going to happen so you know the results of what you're going to be doing. And that's true of any color book, regardless of the medium you use. Markers, watercolor, washes of acrylic, whatever you use, you really do want to test on each color book in the back because each color book's paper is different. For an example, Serene is a very thick book. The Nick Filbert Serene is a very thick book, heavy paper, cardstock, great weight, perfect for markers. I tried to use a watercolor wash on it, and it just kind of soaked in weird and looked kind of mottled. So even though that's a heavy, thick paper that can take water, it reacted weird to the watercolor. So you just never know what's going to happen on any given paper. So always check it out. Okay, so here's one that we did and I say we because almost all these pages were done live with a live audience, and we're interacting and talking and chatting. And so when I say we, it's because almost all my shows are live shows with a chat. And so this is one. Here's an example. This is all black background, black acrylic paint. And my favorite acrylic paint is just Americana by Deco Art. You can use other craft paints. I just like the colors, the coverage, the opacity. I just like the Americanas. So here's an example of no water. This is not a wash. This is straight from the bottle, black paint. Okay, and it's very opaque. But again, you can see up here how this white, I could not do this, even darker. I could not do this if I had done this in solid pencil, okay, which would probably take you 10 pencils to do anyway. But because it's black paint, I can do all kinds of extra effects on the black acrylic paint that you can't do on just straight pencil. You can do this. If I did this in watercolor or marker, I could do this similarly, but not as effectively as it does on black acrylic paint. It's also, you can do stars, you can just do so much having that base. And it doesn't have to be black. It can be other colors. That being said, certain acrylic paints, Even the Americana brand, lime green, red, yellow, they're more translucent. So it may take 2 coats to get it solid, even just straight out of the bottle, because red, lime green, yellow, and some other ones are just more translucent than other colors. See, again, test, see. Some people tell me, well, I can still see the paper through. Well, if you want it solid, add no water to your base. You'll have to spread it out. And I'm probably going to be doing some examples here as we go along. And I just squeeze it out on, I use coffee lids for my palettes. Let me get my brush wet here. I always get my brushes wet before I use acrylic paint, because it softens a brush and it makes it so that it's just better on the brushes. They just won't get as jacked up, if you will, if you don't, if you just have them damp. It's no water's coming out, it's just damp. Okay. All right, so here is how I do it. I just kind of just keep going over and over it until it's completely covered, right? I'm going to kind of go around these notations here, because that's more of my examples. So you just got to, do, 2 or 3 strokes on it to get it solidly covered. But there's no water if you want a solid background. All right, so let me dry this so I can turn, and I use a heat gun to dry things quicker. You can just, it's not, and people say, well, what's the difference between a heat gun and a hair dryer? This is much, much hotter. And mine's over 20 years old, so it looks pretty crusty. But I don't think they make, I don't know, I think they may make a Morphia Uchida still, but the ones that people have talked about, any heat guns I've bought, craft heat tools, if you will, they don't last as long. I don't know, they just made them sturdier or something. So that's how quick that's dry. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here and just showing you the different pages I've worked on. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about this page, this is stencil right here. So this is one of those experiments that we did. We tried using a stencil, and what you can do is you can mask off the areas. Post-it notes are the perfect mask. You can just mask off areas where you don't want the stencil to come over, or if it gets over the edge and you have a black, you just paint it out. So, it just depends on what you want to do. But I always try to show as many effects you can get in your color book as possible. Okay. Another one with a rubber stamp. This is just showing how you can use stamps. Here's another one with a stamp. Here's one with just a wash again. I get a lot of requests to see how the washes look. So you're going to see quite a few pages with just the beginning of a wash. You could wash this whole thing. If there was a lot of his skin showing through, which it doesn't really look like there's much on this page, but if there is a Kirby page that has all these, there's so many details in his work. Well, if there's a lot of the skin showing through and you don't want to try to have to paint out the skin in the background, paint this whole thing with a wash of blue or whatever color. And then you can just pencil over the top. Let me brighten this up just a little more, guys. You can pencil over the top of all the details with your color pencil. Your pencil will go right over the top of your acrylic washes. So it's a good way to get a lot done, or a lot covered, a lot started. And especially if you want to try to figure out where everything is on these pages, it's just a great way to, get a nice base. And then you can color right over the top of this with pencil. Your pencil will go right over the top of that wash. Okay, so here's a completed page, double page spread. And what I did on the background of this is I used a blue. a blue acrylic paint. And I wanted it to kind of have a little bit of a watery look. So I didn't really care if the dark blue was completely solid. So you can see some little lighter areas. I wanted to be able to make it kind of look watery. And then what I did on the fish is this is an acrylic wash of orange here, and then an acrylic wash of blue here, and then pencil on top. There is splatter on it, and y'all have seen me do the splattering with a bucket of stars. And so I just splattered over the whole thing. I think I splattered on the fish. I think I did a splatter after I colored the fish because I wanted the white splatter on top of the fish too to make it look like bubbles. And some of these are a couple years old, so I'm kind of trying to remember. There should be videos for a lot of these. And I will remind you, though, I've only been live streaming on YouTube since June. Before that, I was recording everything on Ustream and then uploading to YouTube. So the quality is not HD on those older videos. It's fine. It's high res, but it's not HD. So just FYI, when you go back, further than 6 months ago, they're going to be not as good a quality as they are now. Okay, so then you can go back in here with, more paint, more pencil, whatever you want to do. Darker pencil, so I darkened it all up with pencil. So it's just started out as a base of blue, a base of orange, and then all the details added. There's another wash on the lion face. So again, if you see any of these that you want to see me finish, tell me the book. First, tell me the book. Don't just say lion, because there could be a lion in Animorphia, Mythomorphia. Tell me the book and tell me what the pages you'd like me to finish. And then I will use, I'll do some color book catch-up episodes, because that's what I want to start with. I want to start with my Kirby books because there's so many. But I am still going to be doing, if I do a color book page like I did part 1 or episode 1 and episode 2 of color book catch up, those were catching up in the Momo Girl music. I still want to do an ink house color book catch up. They're going to be numbered by just the episodes that I upload. They're not going to be like, if I do Kirby books, it's not going to be Kirby 1, Kirby 2, Kirby 3. It's not going to be like that. They're all going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, 30, whatever. But I will put the name of the book in the title. So you'll be able to find the title of the book and then just go sequentially from that. Okay, so here's another one that's done. And it's the same process. Now, in the background of this one, rather than splattering the stars, I individually went in there with the Posca. I think it was a Posca. Or it could have been. It might have been before I had the Poscas. It could have just been the back end of a paintbrush where I dip it in the white paint and just dot it. So you can just you can do that too. Just dip the back end of a brush, a toothpick, something in the back, and just do dots like that if you just have paint. Otherwise, now pretty much I use Poscas. If I just want dots, I just go in there with a Posca. But this one, because they're so separated perfectly, they're not splattered. Let me show you a comparison here. So you see how these are very non-uniform, and these are very uniform. So if you like that look of splattery star look, then you want to splatter. You can always add more. You can always go back in there with your Posca or the back end of a paintbrush and add more specific dots where you want them, right? But this one I can tell because it's so uniform that I did that with probably the back end of a paintbrush. So again, this was all painted black in the background, and then washes of brown and blue, and then the detail. Now, let me give you a hint on this. If you want to not be so careful when you do, let's just say you want to do washes of orange on all these leaves and flowers, then I would recommend doing all the washes of the leaves and the flowers first, do all those details, and then go back, because then you can go out of line. If you know you're going to paint black and you want to just wash of orange as a base on all this background, then you can just slop that orange on, and then with your black paint you can go in there. Or more detail after when you're painting the background, then you can get in there in between those little bits. I hope that makes sense. If you all have questions, make sure and ask. Here's where one of the pages, there's a few pages in some of Kirby's books that have these big blank spaces, in this case, turtles. And people go, well, what do you do with that? I think a great way to do it is a paper piece. So this is just a cutout in the shape. And again, you can just take a piece of tracing paper, trace that shape, take that tracing paper, put it on top of a pattern paper and cut it out, and then you'll have the exact shape, right? So that's a way to make very beautiful full double page spreads where all these big open, because it just says decorate the turtle shells. Well, if you want to, you could do it like this. You could Zentangle on it, doodle on it, whatever you want to do. But an option is to paper piece it and then color everything else. This one's in progress. Again, it's got a modelly green background. I did it on purpose. Didn't want it to look too perfect because I wanted to look like a jungle in the background. But you can always you can do it, paint it more solidly, and then fill it in. But I'm just, this is just another one of the techniques. And again, let's get a little, you can see there. This is another one with just a wash on it. And then you can go back in, and I got pencils here, hopefully to give y'all some examples as we go. I thought I had, where's my indigo blue? And these are just my Prismacolors. I keep my Prismacolors in silverware trays. These are my purples, oranges, reds, and yellows, greens, blues, and just some extra neutrals in here. Then over here is all my portrait colors and neutrals and grays. And so I'm going to get out my indigo blue, which if you have an indigo blue looks so much like the black pencil Prismacolor that I put blue painter's tape on it just so I know that this is the blue, not the black. All right, and then I keep my little pencil sharpener. I have multiple pencil sharpeners. These are the two that I'm using now, just in a little bowl here, so that I don't have to keep reaching over to a trash can to sharpen. Okay, and I notice I'm talking very teacherly, trying to tell you all this. I know because I'm not joking and laughing and playing around with you guys in chat. I'm just talking, so I'm kind of like being all like, oh, we got to be very serious and very, got to talk about each step. But I think in some cases that's okay because then you get more information out of it. So then you can just go in here and, there is grayscale. So you can see the shading right there that's already drawn for you. But now you can go in here on top of the grayscale, and you can start shading. And of course, you can use multiple colors of blue, but this will give you an idea of how you can shade from your watered down acrylic wash base. Your pencils will go over it awesomely. I mean, I can't tell you how awesome the pencils go over the top of an acrylic wash. And craft paint is just so inexpensive, and there's so many colors. So you get just so much bang for your buck from a wash of acrylic paint. So you can see here, so I can just keep going. And so you can just get so much further. If I just tried to color this whole thing with just a pencil, and mind you, this is just all one color. This is just one color of blue. Okay. To do all that with pencil could take you, it would, for a fact, take you much longer than you could do with a wash and then go in here with details with your pencils. So you can see how that's going. I'm trying to keep my arm out of the way there. These are all his, I don't know if they're called, this is the gills. No, it's not the gills. There's a name for this part of the whale, but I can't think of it right now. Let's go a little bit around the eye here. And anytime you're doing an eye or anything that you want really black, just because that pupil has dark gray ink, printed ink, doesn't mean that that is nice and black. So you really want to take either a black pencil, and sometimes in pupils, I'll use my black Sharpie pen. A Sharpie pen doesn't go through like a marker. Okay, so if I want to make a nice black pupil there, maybe a white highlight with a Posca. Get a couple highlights in there. It just makes it stand out more. And I'm not really zoomed in for a lot of detail, guys. I want you to see the big picture today. Okay, so you can just find all the places that already have grayscale shading and just go over it. Make it darker, and then you can get another blue, a lighter blue, and blend out. So you can see how quickly that goes. Okay, it goes really quick on top of acrylic paint. Not that you have to hurry, not that you have to be speedy, but we all have probably hundreds of color books, and you want to get some done. I'm just saying. So, there's a time to just chill and do very slow, meticulous work. But especially when I'm doing them for you guys, they got to be a little quicker. Otherwise, it would take 20 episodes, for one color book page. Okay, so then you can see how that's going. Again, I could paint out the background, but let's just say I wanted like all these fish to be pink, and all these to be yellow, and all these to be green. I could just take a wash and just go whoosh, pink right over that. And then after it dries, then I can go in there and paint around each fish. It's just a lot quicker. So there's an example of how it works on top of acrylic paint. Okay, so let's see what else we got in this one. Here's another one of those pages where you could paper piece it. And again, all you have to do is take some tracing paper, lay it on top of the fish, cut, draw on the tracing paper the piece that you want to do, and then cut that out. I would just put it on top of a piece of pattern paper and then cut them both out at the same time and then glue it on. Here's another good example of see all that fur in there? See all that fur coming off that bear in there? I would just probably, at least this far, put the brown. If I was going to do a brown bear, gray bear, whatever, I would just put a wash of acrylic paint all the way to where the fur ended, at least that far, and then let it dry, and then you can go in there with the details. Here's another example of the same type of thing as the whale, just in purple. Let's see, which purple do I want to use? Same thing here. You can just go in here, and if you want, all right, let's do a little more detail on this one. So here's some of the real tight shading right close to his head here, but there's all these little circly bits. Now you can just go in there and do this. You've already got a base. So now you can go in there, and then maybe some of it's more shadowed along here. Okay, you can do all those little texture on his skin. Like that. And then you could go in and shade a little more. If you wanted those to stand out, you could take a Posca, and you could go in there with the Posca. There's just so many options when you have your base done. Okay, and if you don't necessarily want white dots like this, once the Posca is dry, make sure it's 100% dry. Once it's dry, you can just go over those white dots lightly with a purple. or, well, whatever, lavender. So just so you can see, so you can go from this to this in just that quick. See? Okay, let me make sure that's dry real quick. Okay. All right, now this one's done. These are my iguanas. I guess they're iguanas. And again, same thing. The background is painted black. These dots are individually done. It's not a splatter of dots. The background's painted yellow. This is a wash of green and teal on all of the iguanas, and then just gone in there with detail. Okay, so yeah. And I noticed that one has a blue eye, but it could use a little more. Just getting with a little bit of black. It could use a little bit more dark pupil in there. Looked a little it looked a little faded. So, all right, let's dry that, because that is a paint pen and it will stay wet. Then that will transfer over there, which I don't want that to happen. Okay. Here's another wash on this fox. This one's in progress. Okay, so here's one where I did a demo of, there's no detail on here. It's just got some wash colors on here. This is all acrylic paint washes, acrylic paint, painted in. It's not tightened up with detail. But what I wanted to show is if you didn't want a solid black background, you could do a pattern. I just painted the background green and then just took some lime green, dashes, if you will, and painted the background just to show something different. But again, this has not been detailed. Sounds like a car wash. Gotta detail that. So, like, for instance, a snake, let's take another shade of, like, this is an olive on top of lime to do some shading. And again, this has little scales. You could go over each little scale, probably with a little bit darker color. Could get some shadow in there. You could go over it with what color green do I want? And you can go in there over each little scale and do the detail right on top of your acrylic wash. This is even acrylic right there, the orange. And I know I'm not really zoomed in, guys. I'm just kind of really just trying to give you the overall picture. We'll do more detail when we go to color something in. But these little triangle, or I guess they're diamond shaped diamonds. You can go in there and shade on them, but you've got a base on there to work with. Okay, see? You get the idea. But it looks very flat and plain. It looks very flat and just so plain when you first start. But it's so much easier to work on the acrylic paint. All right, I got to get Crack-a-Lack in here. This is already going to be, I'm only getting through one book here. Okay, so here's another one of the paper piecing. So what I did on the ones that already had some doodling and design from Kirby on there, I just painted them flat color here, and then all these other ones are paper pieced together. Now I can go in here and just work detail on the ones that this bit here and these two have the drawing on them, and so now I can go in those and add detail on those, but the rest of this is just paper pieced. All right, so let's keep flipping here. So here's some roosters, here's Komodo dragon, and again I tried to show a little bit of starting to shade on that one. Another paper pieced one, some toucans, swordfish. I forgot what kind of ape this is called. There's just some bees. Here's one I've started. This is one that I've used quite a few times for examples. So here's what it looks like with nothing on it. This is just right here. It's just a wash of this yellow orange. And here it is after we've shaded on it, right in here. So you can see, and it's not done, but you can see the difference going from that to this with pencil on top of the acrylic paint. And same thing, I've gone a little bit around this eye, a little bit of shading around there, a little bit right there. But this is what it looks like with nothing on it. Then you can go in there with detail. Okay, so flamingos and another tree with some, there's a name for these monkeys too, if they have little white faces, little white fur around their faces. So that one is Animorphia. Okay, so if there's anything you want me to continue in Animorphia, let me know. All right, let's see if we can just get through the rest of the books. I'm going to try to just, I've shown the basics of my acrylic technique, so I'm going to try to get through these so you can just let me know what you would like me to continue coloring. So this one's Imagimorphia. Again, a base here, and here's where I started just to show, again, somebody asked an example, and doing some mist. You don't want to do any mist, water, fog, foam, anything like that until you've completely finished. And I'll show you a couple pages where I've done that. You don't want to do that till everything is done on the page, because then you're going to have to feel like you're going to have to color around it. And you just want to lay that on top of a finished page. Okay, so here's where I started with just this is the center here, and just painted this out, did some pencil, started doing like the little pond in the middle of the jungle there. Again, same thing here, splattered on some paint to make it look more dirty, like it's in the, the forest. Okay, this one is another technique where you can put paint on top of your pencil and paint. So again, this has got a blue painted background, right? Blue acrylic paint. And then what I've done is taken light blue and gone around the feathers. Okay, this is right on top. Because this is acrylic paint, your pencil will go right on top of it. So if I want to glow around them, you can't get that effect by going pencil on pencil. Okay, and then after I did a lot of detail on the swans, then I went in there with a brush, well, smaller brush than that. Then I went in there with a brush with white paint and just did little individual feathers. And you can always go back in there after you've done those individual feathers and then go back and shade under each one. Again, this is a page in progress, a whip, if you will, work in progress. And then you can go in there and shade between each one. But that white paint, the white paint on top of a lot of, if you've already got some things going on, then you want some individual feathers, you can just flick on the white paint, especially on the edges. It works really well. Let me just, do I have any white paint out? No. Oh, no, it's not open. Let me get one that's open here. And you can take, especially on edges, just take, oops, wrong hand. Take a little white paint and you can just kind of flick out. I'll hold it up here in a minute. You can flick out the edges and it'll look either, depending on if you're doing hair, fur, feathers, and you can get a nice effect on the edge with paint. Okay. All right, let me dry that real quick. All right, let's get crack-a-lackin'. Okay, again, this one has got a black painted background with some copper pencil and some, I don't even remember what all we used on it, but to make nebulas, stars, shooting stars, all this can be painted in. And it's the same technique I use on my collage. Okay, so here's one with gold. Gold paint is tricky. It doesn't want it because it's metallic. See the shine there? Because it's metallic, it's very hard to pencil over. So if you plan on doing anything with, I mean, it can be done, but it doesn't look very good, in my opinion. If you're going to do anything with gold metallic paint, I would recommend going back in here with a darker gold for your shadows. Shade with darker gold to make the shadows. And then, of course, then you can always just take, all right, so I've got some shading there already. You can see some of the blue, okay? Then if you want, you can make your highlights, and I really need my baby wipe here. You can do highlights with paint, okay? And then you can knock it back. You can knock back the blue, but like this is going to be like curved. Okay, this is going to be a curve. So right here, it's going to hit the high point. That's where it's going to be the brightest. Okay, so you can do that with, I would put it on a baby wipe and do it just like I would do Mr. Fog. But yeah, so you can get highlights with that. That's another way to get highlights is with paint. Okay, here's another background. Here is where I've just done solid gray in the back. And I haven't done anything here except a wash, right? And then this is all solid gray. And then what you can do, another, thing that's cool with the acrylic background is now I did all this smoke coming out of the stack here. That's all done with pencil. Okay, that's all with pencil. And you can't do that. If I had done this with a gray pencil and tried to do this on top, it just wouldn't work. Okay. So there's that one. All right, here's another one, my mech moth, where I painted the whole thing with a wash of slate blue. And then I go in there and start detailing it out with pencil. But I just start with this rather than taking a pencil and trying to color every little mech in there, every little mechanical wheel and gear. Start with a base. And it doesn't have to be slate blue. It can be whatever color you want. But you've got something to work on top of. And then all your detail is done on top. And it's just so much more rewarding, if you will. And then this is copper paint swirls over here, and it would go all the way around everything there to make it look kind of like, I don't know, I imagine it like a copper flame because it's mechanical. Here's where I've colored in another background, and here's where it would take, if you want this solid, this was done with pink. So if I really want this completely solid, it's one of those translucent colors where it's going to take another coat. Okay, it's going to take another coat of paint to get that completely flat. And then again, on white, like his face would be, his face is white. I went in there and started shading with a bit of blue. And then on top of that, let me do a little bit more here. So I started shading the fur with a blue, and the same thing on top of black. If you're doing animal faces and fur, if you want to shine to it, a blue will give you a shine. Okay. So, so you can get some blue in there, like around the eyes here. Let me just put a little bit more. I want to shade all around the eyes. You can still go back in there with a Posca and get little individual little hairs like coming up into his eyes, coming around his eyes there. I'll hold it up. And so this little bit of detail stuff like this is what makes it look more, I won't just say realistic, but just has more detail in it. So you can get an effect like that. Okay, let me dry that. And you can do that with all the fur. You can get a nice blue shadow in the underlying fur. Okay, get that on the underlying fur, and then do individual little flicks of fur, white fur on top of all that blue that you did, individual little white flicks to make it the fur stand out. Okay, here's another one that has just a solid blue, and here's an example where you don't have to be careful. See, I just did a blue wash. You know, I try to kind of keep it on the bird, but see how it went over the butterfly? Because you can go pencil right over the top of that, you go right over the top of that paint right there. And then the background of this one is in a sienna. And then I took a light, an orange or some, I don't remember the color I used, and started doing like he's cutting through the wind. And you can also, I haven't gone all the way to the end here, but you can do, I don't even remember what color I used. I don't think it was a peach, maybe. And you can do, you know, movement. Right now I've just got it based as around the bird. And the same thing around these butterflies here. I started doing swirls and drawing stars, you know, because it's on acrylic paint, you can get that pencil right on top. And you just can't do this. You just can't do that on top pencil on pencil. Okay. Like this, see? Okay, moving on. I want to get through this. We're already past 45 minutes. I'm going to try. I can't help but not stop and explain things, guys. Okay, so here, pink. I'm going to do these pink and magenta skulls. Again, the background is black. You could paint all the flowers with a wash first and then go in there with your black. Another base coat, the ship. Here's a base coat where I wanted it to look like the city was on fire. He's just got a wash of gray, no detail yet, but you can take and you can put highlights of white. You can get in there with your black shadows on the fur. And just get in there with, but it starts with a gray base. It's so much easier. And then all these little edges here, all this fur can have white highlights right on the edge. So it's very more dramatic. There's just so much you can do, guys, with when you start with an acrylic base. Okay, same thing with this one. This one's got a purple base. It looks kind of blue on camera, but it's purple. And then I have this lavender going around so that looks like they're cutting through the water. Same thing here. This one I showed how you don't have to just do stars or, you know, you can do all kinds of things. In this case, I took a green and I did like moss. So I'm doing like mossy bits on top, all in the back. You can do different textures. This one, I really love this one. But you do have to be careful when you use stickles because it did go through a little bit. Not that it matters. You can paint that out, go over it with pencil. But I did all these spider webs. I went over all the spider webs with a silver gel pen. And then on top of the silver gel pen, I used stickles. This one has, I haven't shaded in the creatures, but I colored in the creatures on this one. And this one I haven't colored in the creatures. But I just wanted to show how to do the spider web with a silver gel pen and stickles. Hot air balloons, some more mech moss. Now, I always do this every time I show this. That's what I imagine they're doing. So you got this kind of movement going around them because I imagine them doing that. Yeah, okay. All right, so here's another one where it's got a base. I'm going to want this to have water all around the tree. So I just kind of blocked it in. I just kind of blocked in where I'm going to want the waves, but I'll go in here, if you can see where I've started here, and I'll go in both with paint and with pencil, and I'm going to have waves all in here. Again, base. Here's another one, base, black background. This one, it was because it was a symmetrical page. They're pretty much, other than the detail of the little creatures, it was pretty much the same kind of thing on the left and right. So I wanted to show how it looks. This is with the acrylic base. Here's what it looks like with pencil. So you can see the dramatic effect you can get with pencil on top of acrylic paint. Okay. This one I wanted to be very, almost like you're looking down in the dirt. So very textury, very messy, very dirty, because I'm imagining all these little animals are down in the forest floor. Okay, again, they have washes on them. And then I'll just go back in here. It's purple, I want purple. Then I can go in here and start shading right on top of the paint. You can do individual little fur. You can, just the pencil just goes right over the acrylic. I can't describe how awesome it is to pencil on top of acrylic paint. So yeah, so we've been doing this for a few years now, and it's hopefully some people are catching on to it. Here's a shark again, a blue background with a light pencil on top to make it look like he's moving through the water there. Okay. Again, remember, guys, I want y'all to tell me what pages you'd like me to complete or work on. Okay. I'm going to try to get through these. Here's an example of where you can just wash over the whole thing. So washed over the whole thing in one color, in a turquoise color, teal color, washed over the whole thing, then went in and darkened up with solid paint without a water in it. Solid paint all around. It's the same color, but this is a wash, then this is solid paint. And then going in here and doing detailing it out on top. Okay, so there's the bird cage. You see, I haven't finished the bird cage over there. Some jellyfish. Another, I don't know, I guess that's a dinosaur. Yeah, there's a volcano back in there. So here's an example where you can just do a quick wash on top. So you can see how I just did a wash right over the mane, right out of lines, because I'm going to color the background. I'm going to paint the background in. So I don't have to be real fussy around each one of those little mane hairs. I mean, painting each one. I can go in there now. I'll be fussy now if I go in there with black. But then on top of the black, I can do more flowy mane hair coming off of the horses. And a snow leopard here. This one I showed how I went in here with gel pen. I don't use gel pens very much except on tiny, tiny things like this, because gel pens are just awesome for tiny little details, right? But these are glitter gel pens. So what I did in this case, it's another way to attack a big page of detail. I went in and found all the trees. So I think I had 4 different colors of gel pen, and I just held all 4 of them, and I just went in there and found all the trees first. Okay. Camel, wash on him. Owl. Okay, so this one, there's nothing in the background, but I wanted to put in a tree. So I just kind of I put in a brown wash, a brown solid painted brown. Then I went in there and did like wood things, like wood. And then here's an example of, and you don't want to do, this is one of those things you don't want to do till you're completely done with everything. Putting a mist. Let me grab a baby one. And I've shown how I do these, the mist and everything. I mash the paint into the baby white, and then you can just go right over the top. But don't do this until you're completely done. You know, I'm just doing this as an example for you guys. Okay, so you can mist everything in. But you want to do that after you have finished everything else, right? All right, let me dry that. Because you don't want to have to try to draw around that. Okay, trying to stay in here. Some shells, same effect, same thing. So here we got some peach shells. So let's say I wanted, with the coral rather, maybe I want a sienna, because that's kind of like the color of these shells are kind of a coral shell. And then they have these kind of brown kind of stripes on them. But you see how I'm going right over the top of the paint? Okay, and then color all the stripes. Again, here's a whole bunch of snails. Just got to wash. Again, doesn't matter if you go off the base, because if I'm going to paint the background black or whatever, you just go right over the top of that. You won't even see where you've gone out of line. Here's where we just did some examples of different types of bases. Crayola. I don't even remember. We did some different gouaches, I think. Yeah, here's a gouache cheap set. This was chalky. So just different paint tests. A gray coyote or a wolf. I'm probably a coyote. Okay, an eagle. Base, just with the paint. And then there's all the hidden things in the book. So that one is Imagimorphia. I'm going to go a little quicker because I want to get through these. We're already at an hour. All right, Mythomorphia. So if you want something colored out of Mythomorphia, tell me in the comments Mythomorphia and then whatever page. Base coat. I'm going to just try to flip. I won't stop and talk about it unless there's something that really hits me. Okay. This is the same thing. Painted background. Painted a green wash, an orange wash, and then just started shading with pencil. There's the gnomes. So you can see I still have lots to do in all these books. I would love to finish all my Kirby books eventually. Eventually. All right, so here's the Kraken. This one I did with essentially 2 colors. Did it all with the teal green and a magenta, a little bit of brown, and the black background, and some white paint. So there's pictures of this on my Instagram and in other places. Now this book's much thicker than the first 2. It's heavier cardstock than Imagimorphia and Animorphia. Okay, this one I have. This side is done. And I just never did decide if I wanted the troll to have coordinating colors, contrasting colors. I just haven't decided yet. They're tied together with the background. But then I just stuck on this page, I stuck with orange, teal, and pink, and white to do all of this. Okay, so that one's done, but I don't know what I want to do with him yet. Might do it all in gray, all in grays. This one was an example of how to do a snow scene and a sunset. So it's also got stickles on it for glitter. You do not want to do that until you are completely underpainted everything you want. Again, some of my pages I go a step ahead just to show people how to do things. But you don't want to put your stickles and your glitter and your shiny paint until you are completely done. But here's how to do snow with purple. And I know it looks blue on camera. At least it does to me when I look at the screen. This looks blue. It's actually very dark purple. Okay, another wash in the background. Okay, so here is my werewolf. This is got, as after everything has been painted in, after I finished coloring, painting, penciling, after everything is done, then I went in there with some silver highlights, paint, and gold paint. There you go. See the shine? That gold paint is added on top of everything else being done because you really can't pencil on top of metallics, not very easily. This, I did this in 4 parts, probably 2 hours each part. This probably took me about 8 hours. One of the 4 parts did not upload to YouTube, so there's only 3 parts to this uploaded, I believe. This was a couple years ago, close to anyway. And this took a very, very long time, but you can see all the detail. I know he's got bloody footprints and whatnot. All the ravens and bats in the background. They all have Posca highlights. The trees are all detailed out. I can't get any closer, guys, because it wants to flash out, but I think you can see it there. The trees are all done with swirls and shading. So this is probably, of all my Morphia books, this one's probably the most time consuming of any that I've done. Okay, this side's done. This is my water dragon. This is going to be the fire dragon. So I have the water dragon there. Well, no, it's not done. I still have to do the water foam. I just noticed that. Okay. And again, these pages are much more thick than the other one. So if there's anything you guys want me to color, it doesn't have to be, I don't have to just color the ones that I've started, but I would like to do some finish, some of the ones that I've done as examples, base coating and all that. Okay, so here's my dragon. This was probably right up there with the time, probably not quite 8 hours like the werewolf, but this one did take a lot of time. And again, I started with a wash of green, wash of red, wash of blue, and then went in there with the details. Every one of those scales is hand colored, each one. And then it's got some white Posca on it for shading. Every one of that, it's very detailed, took a lot of time. And then after everything was painted, then I went in there with my baby wipe, wiped it, and then put some mist across it. You got to be brave because there's no going back from that. You can't get rid of the white paint once you put it on there. So, all right. So here's the rest of the book. I'm really tight on the camera angle shot there. So I still have a lot to do in this one. This was a request for this one. A lot of people want me to do that one, but I want to try to finish some of the ones I've started, but I will do, if you want me to, I'll start a new page from scratch. But the point of these 45, now an hour long video is to do color book catch-ups, to try to get caught up on some of the already started pages. So the last 2 I have here are Phantomorphia and Geomorphia. I think I've only got maybe 1 or 2 pages done in here. So I'm going to just quickly flip through these and then we'll be done. These are one-sided, by the way. So if you want to use marker in these, you can see I've started this one here. If you want to use markers in these, then you can. So, okay, hang on a minute, guys. Hello? Okay, let me call you back. I'm recording a catch-up. Okay, bye. Y'all are used to Hubster and daughter calling me during my show. It feels weird during one of these where nobody's here but me. So on these, so you can see here where I use some black marker on that one. These you can use marker, but make sure if you use Copics or any alcohol-based markers, make sure to put something behind it because it will go through. Here's one that I finished. I tried to keep it with 3 colors. I wanted it the burgundy red, the green, and purple. So other than the black and white. But those were the colors that I wanted to use. And then I did put stickles in the water down there. Okay. And you can see This is Copics or alcohol markers. I don't remember if it was Copic or alcohol markers. On the black and the green, that was marker. And then, of course, I went in there with pencil and other things. But it will go through. Here I've started the bat again, marker. This is the claw. I love the claw. Spider, tree, another moth. So you can see this one I'd planned on doing last Halloween. Didn't get to it, but started this one with the just base coated it in. I think this one I did with my water base, my super tips. So it didn't go through because those are water based, but that's all super tip base coating. This one I've got all the red done in all the cards with Copics. You can see it goes through. And then there's some bugs and crystals, another wolf, and then there's all the hidden things. So that is Phantomorphia. And then the last one is Geomorphia. And I think I've only started in this one. So this is what I've started in Geomorphia, and this is done with pan pastels. Pan pastels and then pencil detail. So again, I'm not done, but all this sky, all the everything you see here is got a base of pan pastel. Then I sprayed it, and then I go back in here with my black. Then I can go back in here with detail. And this big beetle here. Just so you can kind of see, then you can go on top of pan pastel, just like you can go on top of acrylic paint. And I think that might be the only thing I have done in this book. Again, it's a one-sided. This was supposed to be the continuation, what apparently his publisher wanted to do, that do a half book and a half book with single-sided so that people could use it because it's thick paper, so they could use markers on these pages. Okay. So I think that should wrap it up, guys. So whatever you have seen, especially started pages, I really want to finish pages. That's kind of the point of the color book catch-up. And I just wanted to start with my Kirby books, all the Morphia books. So let me know what you think, what you'd like to see. I love this one. I love this page. I could start it right now, but I won't. Okay. So there we go. Geomorphia, Phantomorphia, Mythomorphia, Imagimorphia, and Animorphia. So thanks, guys. Just went a little over an hour. Been trying to keep these 45 minutes, but yeah, I had to stop and explain things. So, okay, guys, let me know what you think. And thanks for watching my coloring catch-ups. Thanks, guys.